we can actually tick a box of the United States becoming a producer of antimony within the next 12 months. So that's differentiating our story from some of the other ones out there, and it's starting to get a little bit of traction. It's starting to resonate with folks in Washington as well as in the market.
Welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now from our OTC studios in New York City is Craig Lindsay. He's the CEO of Resolution Minerals. And Craig, it's great to see you again. How are you?
Steve, I'm doing fantastic. Great to be with you today.
Yeah, it's been a little while since you and I have caught up, so great opportunity. I know there's a lot going on within the company. For those not familiar, just remind everyone a little bit about your company.
Sure. Well, Resolution is listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. Market cap a little under 100 million. We completed a $27 million financing back in the fall, so we're well funded. Back in July, we acquired 100% interest in a project called Horse Heaven. It's about a 15,000 acre project in the Boise National Forest. We're immediately adjacent to Perpetua's Stibnite Mine. And the takeaways from our project, it's a past producing antimony mine, it's a past producing tungsten mine, and it's got a very, very large and growing gold endowment that we're very excited about.
Yeah, let's talk about the antimony in just a second, but because I think there's more of the story than just that part of it. But as far as the gold is concerned, I know that you're working that project at Horse Heaven quite substantially. So tell me where you're at there and really what's ahead in 2026.
Sure. Well, Horse Heaven has a couple of different targets. Antimony Ridge is one of them, which we'll get into shortly. But what we've been working on since July is something called Golden Gate. And Golden Gate is about a 3-kilometre trend that has been drilled historically in 1986, 87, and 1994. So two prior drill programs before we got out there. They were going after shallow, open pit, kind of oxide gold mineralization along this 3-kilometre trend. We came in there, we put 14 holes down in late 2025. We hit on 100% of the holes that we drilled. We got some fantastic results. When I say fantastic results, talking about the first hole I knocked out was 253 meters of 1.5 grams, and that gold started at surface and ended in mineralization. So that target is, we call that Golden Gate North. It's about 700 meters long, and it is open-ended at depth. It's open-ended laterally. We also recently put out about 1.5 kilometers to the south along this Golden Gate trend, Discovery News, 100-meter intercept of 0.45 kind of grams per ton. We think this is all linked together. We're onto something big. This year, we're going to be drilling starting in May, 30,000 feet, about 30 holes. We're going to triple the amount of drilling that we did last year, and that will result, the target is a maiden resource estimate at the end of the year. So big news on the gold front.
Okay, and you're going to do both Gold Gate North and South, right? You're planning to drill both?
Yes, and on a parallel basis, we'll also be doing some additional permitting to significantly expand kind of the exploration footprint out there, and will allow us to drill the entire kind of 3-kilometre strike length. So it's a lot going on at Golden Gate.
Okay, Antimony Ridge, that's the other one I want to ask you about, because you're in the US, very important critical metals, rather. Everyone's talking about them. Antimony is an interesting one.
Yeah, well, antimony is really the reason Resolution got into the Horse Heaven project. And what's exciting at Antimony Ridge, we've got about 3,000 feet of historic trenches that produced in the First World War, the Second World War, and even right into the Korean War. And it produced high-grade antimony. And when I say high-grade, the sampling that we've done within these trenches has averaged 40% antimony. So extremely high-grade veins that cut across these trenches. We are in the process of filing for a permit to do two things. Number one is to complete a fairly significant bulk sample program. And the second thing is to pop 125 drill holes into this target area to kind of help define the resource. The bulk sample is exciting, Steve, because once we get that permit in place and we start stripping some of that high-grade material out of the existing trenches, very low kind of environmental footprint because we'll be working within the existing pits, that will allow us to start be actually a producer of antimony. And I've been actually spending a fair bit of time in Washington, D.C., telling this story to the Idaho congressional delegation, as well as to the folks at the Department of War. We've been working with the National Permitting Council on filing for Fast 41 coverage for this project. Antimony is very, very critical to the United States. Most of your listeners will know that kind of 80% of the processing of antimony is done in China. 60% of the mining of antimony is done in China. They've cut off supplies to the U.S. The U.S. administration is focusing very hard at developing domestic sources of supply. Perpetua's Stibnite Mine next door, it's an amazing mine. It's a great story. They won't be in production for kind of 3 years. With what we've got at Horse Heaven, we can actually tick a box of the United States becoming a producer of antimony within the next 12 months. So that's differentiating our story from some of the other ones out there, and it's starting to get a little bit of traction. It's starting to resonate with folks in Washington as well as in the market.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the markets. You're at the OTC studios today. It's important to get those U.S. investors on board with this, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do trade on the Australian exchange. We got some great support from Australian investors, which has been wonderful to see. But this is a U.S. project. There's a lot of energy around critical metals and gold in the United States. We think it's a logical place to start knocking on doors. The capital markets are deep. There's a lot of liquidity here. We're actually upgrading our listing to the NASDAQ, and we are going to start really focusing some energy on introducing our story to U.S. investors. And it's great being out here. I'm in New York City for a couple of days talking to folks, and the reception so far has been really, really good.
Good. Good to hear, Craig. Congratulations on all the success. As I mentioned, it's been a little while since you and I have chatted, but it sounds like it's exciting times ahead. So appreciate giving us an update, and good luck the rest of the way, okay?
Thank you so much, Steve. Wonderful to be with you today.
Good stuff. There's Craig Lindsay, the CEO of Resolution Minerals.